It's Jessica here at Hell Knows for Beauty. Welcome. If you're new to the channel, please make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's video. And if you're an oldie here and always in for the goodies, welcome back. And make sure to like after this video and to share, of course. You know, spread the word of Hell Knows for Beauty. Now that we got that out the way, let's get into what we're going to talk about today. So I was really hesitant. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do today as far as filming. I wanted to film a love ritual, hence the pink here, but I decided to just leave the production a little bit on the side and really come here on a face-to-face talking sense with you, since actually it's been a while since I don't sit and have a talk with you guys, so I think that would be great. With that being said, I also wanted to introduce a new little series that will, you know, prompt me and encourage me to come on here and just have these one-on-one talks. And let's see if I just start off, unless you guys have something that you come up with or have a recommendation on a name, but I want to call it, you know, Ask Jessica or Hell Note Sessions, or let's see how it goes. But pretty much I just want it to be a time that I take to film some of the questions that you have and just give you, because everyone's opinions can not really matter or be controversial, whatever the case. But I just wanted to just give my opinion, give my feedback, share my experiences on some of the questions that some of you may have. I get a lot of questions on all sorts of things, on things of spirituality, the occult, how I got into this, why I got into that. So it can also be personal questions of myself as well. Things of current events, historical events, whatever it is, any questions that you may have or you would like to know my input on it. I encourage you to send me emails, to hit me up on Instagram, here in the comments as well. Just send me questions of things or curiosities that you have. So I thought, I get many questions, and I often feel that I miss out on the opportunity to also share those responses with everyone, because I think it's always involves a teaching moment, even if it's not in my response or in my answer. Also in the question itself can be very beneficial and encouraging to others, and you can always get something out of anything. So there's this one question that I did get not too long ago, and given all the questions that I've gotten, I felt that I would shorthand my response by typing it in, just a long dragged sort of answer. But it's not long. I just wanted to make sure that I covered all bases as far as the answer is concerned. And this young lady is truly someone that I admire and who has been a follower of Hell Knows for Beauty, and definitely has had some inputs and experiences and that I value as well. So I thought, why not just start off with this question? Not that this question is just, you know, the best, but it's the most recent one. And it's a question that I think has so much validity and also so many perspectives as well. So with that being said, hey girl, hey, I'm sure you will know who you are, because I'm going to read the response pretty much word for word, verbatim. But I just thought it was so interesting, and it's here on my phone, so I'm going to read it. Jessica. So hello, Jessica. I wanted to ask you something, but not exactly sure how to word my terminology, because I don't want to offend you or anyone for that matter. Now, normally you're a little bit hesitant, because when you see someone kind of start off their conversation with, I don't want to offend you, or with all due respect, you know there's some sort of offense or some disrespect coming, but I assure you it didn't. But I just found that funny, how we immediately tend to already give the question some sort of feeling, I guess. I don't know, but she goes on to say, maybe explaining the situation would be better. So there is a new girl at my job. She too is on a journey, as every day she comes in, she is dressed in all white from head to toe. I may have offended her because I did ask her what the proper words were to describe her journey, and she kindly just kept repeating that I was not supposed to be asking her these type of questions, and I apologize. However, I have two other co-workers who have spoken about her to me, one being Dominican, who says whenever you see someone in all white, you keep your distance because it is affiliated with Santeria, which is demonic. She puts them in quote. And my other coworker, who is of African descent, African American, but Americanized, Googled it and agreed. When they brought it to my attention, I did let them know it's a little ignorant to feel or think that way. I said her religious beliefs may be different and are probably more spiritual, but does not in any shape or form prove to be demonic. Santeria isn't just voodoo for black magic, an exclamation point. I even told them voodoo isn't just black magic or demonic where they wish bad upon you, but I couldn't grasp the correct words to use to properly explain what the beads under the shirt mean, or why she's in all white, and why you can't just ask her why are you always in all white. It kind of bothers me that everyone can get so spooked out because it isn't the norm for them. And even my coworker being Dominican, I would have assumed any person of Latin descent would have knowledge and not be so quick to bash them. I guess I didn't know the proper way and didn't know what to say. And times like these, I do wish my grandmother was around, because I know she would have been able to explain it better to me. So yes, being a long question, I found it so important and poignant to really address and bring to the forefront. So I think this answer is twofold, threefold, many folds, many different perspectives. And her explaining the situation gave me a better perspective of what she is trying to get clarity on. And I think that the first thing in looking at the question is, being dressed in all white. Now, to give you just some background of what Santeria is and what the Yoruba tradition is and so forth, not to get so dragged into the backgrounds, because yes, there's information out there that is information and sourced information, then there's misinformation, which is people's experiences or perspectives, and may not be agreeable to the general understanding, and therefore becomes misinformation. But really, not necessarily. It's all just bad information or just bad things that you're learning. But seeing this person dressed in all white from head to toe, and in our community having that association with all those things that we fear being demonic or evil, it just comes with the territory. So the first thing here is, I guess the first offense was just asking her, what were the proper words to describe her journey. And as innocently that I'm sure, with no malice or no judgment, that this person asked the question, put yourself in that person's shoes as far as an initiation, a new rite of passage, just a new stage in their life. Which actually, for me, being an initiated priestess, I have gone through that process. I know what it's like. So I can only imagine what this person is going through, and then trying to put into words for your understanding what this journey is, And so now we put ourselves not only in the person who's asking the questions, but now we put ourselves in that person's shoes. Going through an initiation is like a bar mitzvah. It's like a wedding, a trauma, any sort of change in your life that really changes everything that you thought, believed, especially from a physical sense, an emotional sense. Is a lot going on. There's so many different things. I feel, for me, that life in itself is a whole initiation. So that whole process of, I may have offended her because I did ask her what the proper words were to describe her journey. How do you explain that? How do you explain it? So for me personally, going through that, a lot of things changed in my life. I had to go through the initiation for personal reasons, for health reasons, and other reasons as well. But after the fact, it was a complete change. Going back, especially if you work, going back to school, just going back out into society can be a whole experience in itself, a whole initiation in itself, especially if you have to change your physical form, or you just change your whole persona and your whole vibe, people pick up on those changes. And naturally, they're curious and want to know. But going back to saying what is that person's experience and how they can properly put it into words for you to understand may not be something that is feasible to them, that they're able to even do that, because they themselves may not have the answers to what they're looking for. They themselves probably have not worked through the process of describing that journey and what it means to them, especially in the grand scheme of things of how society views it. So I don't think that you offended her or that person. Maybe they may say, oh, why is this person being so nosy? Why are they asking questions? Because even myself, I had many people ask me, why are they all white? It's an anomaly. It's not normal. It's not something that you see every day. So yes, it's natural people will ask questions. But it's really about the person who's asking the questions, or you in that curiosity, knowing if it's the right time, if it's the right place to ask that question. And even if it is, putting yourself in that person's shoes and perspective, and maybe saying maybe that person really doesn't have the capacity to put it into words for themselves. So how can they, explain it to you? So it's a very complex thing, because it's something that is so personal and it's so just offhand. Not everyone does this and not everyone knows about it. And if they do, again, everyone has their own experience and perspectives and will want to give some sort of definition to this person's journey. So looking at the questions and you wanting to ask her, what were the proper words to describe her journey, may not have come from a place of ignorance. It comes from a place of maybe they themselves, that girl just doesn't know, doesn't even probably understand. And if she does, and that it is a ceremony, it is a huge process, there's still that level of adaptation, of getting used to this change. And that is what really initiation is. It's about a change, stepping into the unknown, stepping into something different that is in your life. So I think that part of the question, that is how I felt. And I think that maybe that is how many people feel as well, at least on the flip side as well. Putting yourself in the person who is being asked, in this case, the initiate, the person who is dressed in all white. At least for me, I saw myself as being a representative of the Yoruba tradition, being a representative of what a Yabo is, which I forgot to address, but a Yabo is an initiate, pretty much the bride of the Orisha. The process is that you dress in all white for a whole year for purification purposes, for ritual purposes, for connection purposes, and just feeling that whole process in ingraining it into your life. And for me, a lot of experiences that I had with a lot of people who would ridicule or have offhand questions or reactions to my experience, it was really ultimately that I came to the point that it really was up to me as to how I showed myself as a true representation and representative of the tradition of being an initiate and of being a Yabo. So on the flip side as well, my opinion as far as a person, maybe, her response wasn't sufficient enough because of reasons that I've mentioned. But also I think it's our responsibility to educate people, to educate them in terms of the things that they're curious about and they don't know, and be that first point of reference to them as to what it is they want to know about the tradition. So if I would have someone ask me, why are you dressed like this? What is this purpose? I would explain to them. I became initiated as a Yoruba priestess, and part of the process for my initiation is to dress in all white for a period of time, and that's it. Really, you don't have to go into so much detail. It depends if it's a conversation. but it's giving that person some sense of understanding. You don't want to be standoffish or give an attitude or leave people in the dark or wondering, because then it would just perpetuate the misinformation and misunderstanding of what your tradition is. For me, I felt it always to be important to uphold the best representation of what I was going through. And yes, even though dressing up in all white and doing things that weren't in the norm, I still put myself in the position that I, at the very least, deserve respect. And personally, for me, in my corporate career and my job, a lot of the upper management and people of management were very respectful and just aware of what I was going through, and never put me in a position where I felt any sort of discomfort or felt like I was an outsider. Now, other people, not so many people who have home training per se, weren't too kind or weren't too receptive or weren't too into their doing their own groundwork, that their reactions were just truly hilarious. I one time had a co-worker, actually I was a manager and he was one of the people of my team. He would just see me pass by dressed in my all white and say, "Ooh, Santeria," and make all these hands and all these gestures. And I find it funny because it's just people. I mean, you can't control people. You can only control yourself and really brush things off. But he would just make so many offhand comments and just say so many things. And mind you, he is of Latin descent. He's Puerto Rican. He should have known better. And still, it was probably one of the most disheartening experience I've had. Actually, a lot of the low vibing experiences that I had as a Yabo came from the people of my community. And that's very sad. It's very, very sad, but it's the truth and it's the reality. But again, maybe these people have never seen a Yabo in real life or in person. Maybe they just heard about it and they see me and they, just have a reaction. That doesn't mean that it's okay for them to do that, but it's just a sense for you to understand that that's just how people are, and you need to know and learn how to be secure in yourself enough to really not only school them, but be that example and set an example for them. So again, that was, at least for me, my personal background. I've always been secure and sure of the things that I've committed myself to. So I've never had a problem with explaining to people or helping people understand some misconceptions or misunderstandings that they may have of me or of the things that I do. At the end of the day, if you don't know about something, or if you don't have anything good to say, then just don't say it. It's just continue to educate yourself and be conscious and aware that people go through things and people are going through things. And just because you want to satisfy curiosity of yourself doesn't mean that you can overreach over people's boundaries or disrespect people, because again, everyone is going through their own journey. So from that perspective, her saying that you're not supposed to be asking those type of questions, maybe that just was her best way to mitigate the situation. But I think as people of this tradition of the community, and we at the very least owe some sort of proper explanation where we can leave people on an eye-to-eye understanding of what is happening, not only within ourselves but in the world collectively. So moving on, I guess, to the third part of the question, and again, I think it's such an important topic to talk about because it's something that we're starting to see a lot of different things, and people being interested in their higher selves and going into things, whether it be tradition from their own family, from their culture, and I think it's important to know that it's okay to have those sort of curiosities, and it's important for people to respect it. So going into the third part of this question is, so now she has two co-workers who have spoken about her to me, one being Dominican, another being African American, and how this person who works with these people has some sort of expectations just because one is of Latin descent and one is of the original African American descent of the Yoruba, that they should or shouldn't know. I mean, it's just so much. where we have, again, all these expectations of people, but really it's not the case. Every different person has their own personal experiences, whether it be with spiritual things of Santeria, Yoruba, or any sort of other cultural tradition or religion. So when she says, the one being Dominican, saying that whenever you see someone in all white, you keep your distance because it's affiliated with Santeria, which is demonic. And my other African American co-worker who agreed. Again, we all have our own personal experience, and it's not up to me to explain or convince anyone, or even up to you to convince anyone of anything. Everyone has to do their own research and come to their own conclusions, not only by what they read and see and hear, but what they experience for themselves. This, to me, Santeria, being initiated priestess, has nothing to do with demonic or demons or the devil or anything like that. If anything, I got into this to try to keep myself away from those type of things that I would see, not only that we see now today in the church with the sexual scandals and so many issues that we have with the Christian church, with the Catholicism. It just happens globally, worldwide, and actually regardless of the religion and tradition. It's really about the actions of individuals and how it comes together collectively. One sees one that does it and just keeps doing it, and it's just a vicious cycle of the same thing. So when I see people who make those comments or remarks that it's demonic, I really don't have anything to say about that, because there's nothing to argue. That person already has their mind made up of what they think they know about whatever it is they think they know. What's important is that you yourself know what you're into, what you are about, and what is your birthright for you to know and learn and be able to express and manifest for yourself. A lot of people, what is good and what is bad is all dependent on perspective. A lot of people do horrible things, but then they go on church on Sunday and they feel that they have been absolved of what they've done Monday through Saturday. But again, that's on you. It's on your heart, it's on your own perspective, and it's your own understanding of those things. A lot of us grow up culturally truly disconnected from our source of who we are, of where we come from, of really trusting our own selves and intuition. And a lot of those things that we don't understand, we tend to put it out in the fear zone and label it whatever it is that is comfortable the most to us. So I think with you trying to explain to them that it's not demonic, that it's not about negative things, it's a waste of time. Because when you know something of yourself, there's nothing to prove to anyone. You know it for yourself. There's nothing to discuss. There's nothing to debate. You know it for yourself. If there's a fire hydrant and the fire hydrant is yellow and you say it's red, it's red. I'm not going to argue. There's nothing to argue. When you see someone arguing something, it's mostly because they don't, one, either don't believe in what they're arguing about, or two, they don't really know what they're arguing about, because they haven't immersed themselves in that subject. They haven't immersed themselves into the experience of what it is they don't know. So if you're arguing about something and I know for a fact that it's not, that's all that I need to know. I know that Santeria, Voodoo, all these alternative African things that has been kind of put against us is my birthright. I know the miracles it has done for my life. I know the changes that is made for my life. And I know all the benefits that it has brung into my life that I could never even associated with anything negative, because at the end of the day, it all really requires all the work that I put in for myself. So with that being said, there's no convincing of people. People will always have their own opinions and will have their minds made up of who they think you are, or who or what they think they know. So I don't think that it's a matter of explaining things to people. I think it's just a matter of being sure of yourself and standing strong with your convictions and what you believe in, as opposed to coming across information or things to debate people or to prove them wrong just because, you know, you have something to prove or you want to uphold something. Life goes on. I know how I live my life. I can sleep at night. I have no problems with my conscience. I know what my path is, and I live fine with that. So again, it's a lot of compilations of misconceptions, but it's mostly about people not paying close attention to who they are internally in themselves and what they can offer other people when they become out of that ignorance zone and really pay attention to who they are and the things that is required of them. Because what we are here is just all to teach each other, and most importantly to teach ourselves, so that way we can move on to higher realms and to our higher self. So I hope that I was able to cover a lot of the bases of this question. I think this was such an important and beautiful question to ask, and I just hope it brought clarity to any sort of misunderstandings that you may have had of yourself or the situation at hand. So thank you everyone so much for tuning in today. If you enjoyed today's video, please make sure to like and subscribe and also share. If you have any questions for our next Ask Jessica, or let's see, Hell Notes for questions, let's see how we do this series, please make sure to leave your questions down below. You can also email me at jessica@hellnotesforbeauty.com, and you can also check me out on Instagram, DM messages, and Facebook as well. So again, thank you so much for tuning in, and as always, make sure to stay weird. Bye.